Hey, what's up, dogs? What's up with all my dog pound DMX Rough Riders out there? I got a message. Somebody sent me a message like a couple weeks ago where they were like, you should check out this guy, Dan Bongino, on YouTube. Almost 1 million subscribers for this guy. Huge YouTube political guy. He's a MAGA guy, hard MAGA guy. And I watched a bunch of his videos, and the one thing I could say about this is that it's one of the most stunning examples I've ever seen of politics with actual politics completely sucked out of it. Like, it's politics that's just purely performative, I guess. And it's the most extreme example I've seen of that. I will say, however, he's a great presenter, I would say. He's really, unlike me, I stumble over every word and I forget what I'm talking about all the time. He's actually a pretty good broadcaster. So we'll read that. See, there we go. Great example. This kind of, he doesn't do that. You got to hand it to Dan. Is it Dan or Don? Dan. All right, here we go.
So moving on here, Tucker Carlson did a segment last night. It was a good one. Folks, it's a warning we all need to hear. I'm going to cover later in the show the Pennsylvania stuff I teased yesterday and the Georgia stuff because there's a lot going on, but this is critical. This is more of an overview argument here. Ladies and gentlemen, we're at a critical time. There are things happening right now under our noses, in some cases right in front of our faces.
Okay, this is a really interesting thing about this show. Is he's in a fight of some kind. Like, we're in a fight. We're in a fight for our lives here. We're not going down. We're not backing down without a fight. And no one's going to take us alive because we're not backing down from this fight. Hey, man, what exactly is that fight? I don't know. But it's serious. And I ain't backing down from it. Is the fight just that you kind of like Trump? Maybe. I don't know. I haven't thought the fight through that much.
If allowed to continue to their logical endpoint, we won't have a country left. No, I'm not kidding. The country will be unrecognizable from the freedom-loving constitutional republic you grew up in. If you were going to implement a 4-point strategy to destroy the republic, decimate the conservative movement and freedom and liberty-loving patriots with it, how would you do it? Well, folks, what would be the first step? First step would be to make sure that your political opposition, not necessarily big corporations or whatever you call them, I mean your political opposition, working people, dirt under the fingernails, people on the ground.
Wait for it. This is the first thing that's going to do destruction, just total destruction of America.
That way your political opposition were bankrupted. Not going to think much about politics if you can't feed your family, right? Kind of witnessing that now, aren't we? Successful small business owners owning restaurants, bars, nightclubs, churches, by the way, which still need money to operate, although they're nonprofits, being bankrupt.
So the number one thing destroying the country, you might have thought he was going to say something like, hey, there's like think of a state like Kentucky, super poor, just destitute state. It's not like we need to save that state by doing some kind of a New Deal program, job creation program out there in these, destitute red states like Kentucky. No, that's not the thing we need to do. We need to get people back in restaurants. We need to get back. This is the problem. This is how they're going to destroy everything, is not let us freely, hack up phlegm into the face of a Chipotle worker. If I can't do that, this is the true destruction. So that's number one. This is the number one biggest problem facing the country right now. Is not that people haven't got a stimulus check, which you can check this out. I'll put a link to this, but there was this big open letter that went out from a bunch of economics professors where they were like, hey, why hasn't there been another stimulus? You're literally going to destroy the economy if you don't put out another stimulus. Hasn't happened, but that's not one of his complaints. His complaint is, why can't I go maskless into a Cold Stone Creamery and put my fingers inside the ice cream. Not even the one that I'm buying, just generally. Why can't I do that? If I can't do that, it's this complete destruction of the community.
Because you won't allow people in the pews. You bankrupt your opponent, you get them.
Oh, churches also. There was a big, one of the first rulings of the new Supreme Court is you don't have to obey these you don't have to obey these rules that say, hey, don't pack a church. You can pack a church. I think it's just in New York, but you can pack a church. Not a great idea for trying to contain a virus, but go ahead, do it. Because the Supreme Court, they said you can.
I'm thinking about eating. You're not much thinking about voting when you're thinking about eating, right? That would be step one for me. And while you're bankrupting your opponents, by the way, through lockdowns, endless attacks, trying to destroy their credibility, sending in health inspectors constantly.
I mean, this is the kind of weird thing that I don't understand how. I mean, I guess I do understand that it's just totally like, I don't care. We don't really care. We're not really thinking this through, but a lot of people are not going to want to go into restaurants. I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. A lot of people don't want to get a dangerous virus. Or they don't care about themselves getting sick. They just don't want to spread it to their Meemaw or whatever, you know? So right now there's not much we could do about it. I don't know what to tell you. It's so weird to see grown-ups say, I don't want this to be the way it is. Because that's what they're really saying. Like, I don't want there to be a virus. Why is there one? I don't like it. That's basically, so that's rule number one. I don't like the virus. Okay, what else we got?
You'd also want to enrich your friends, the political opposition as well, wouldn't you? Because it doesn't do you any good if you don't have rich friends to support you while bankrupting other people who have money and may support political causes themselves.
I don't even know what he saw. I mean, is he implying that, like, Republicans don't have, they don't spend a bunch of money on political campaigns? I mean, it's both totally corrupt system. I don't know what to tell you. Okay.
That would be step one. Step two would be you'd want to decimate and destroy election integrity as well, right? You can't.
Okay, number two. So these are the two biggest problems we got so far. I can't go into a gas station hacking into the face. I can't go into a gas station with, maskless and lick all the ice creams or whatever. That's number one. So number one is I don't want the virus to exist. I don't want to do a lockdown. Number two is not just that I don't want to do a lockdown, but I want people to also go into businesses. I want the government to force people to behave like there's not a virus, basically. So I can not only open my business, but people will come in. So that's number one. Number two is the election was fake. And what proof do we have of that? What actual evidence have we been presenting in court for that? Well, the evidence is that I want Trump to be president. Some more.
Can't have elections where you might lose because the people who you pissed off, if I may use such language, they may actually vote. Matter of fact, many of them did. But you want to make sure that you got an insurance policy in the election too. The insurance, what do you mean, votes? No, I don't mean votes. I mean a process in the background, just in case the election was like free and fair and you lost. Step three, of course.
Okay, so I guess number two is I wish the election was different. I guess that's number two. I wish it was. I'm mad. So I'm mad that the virus happened. I'm mad that the election didn't go the way that I want to. It's like an aggrievement list. Okay.
Of course, you'd want to use the government.
It's not a list of these are things that are destroying the world. It's just like these are things that I'm upset about. I'm upset.
You'd want to weaponize it to attack and destroy your opposition. That hasn't happened. It's not like they spied on a presidential campaign and started fake investigations with him based on a PP tape. Never. Oh, sorry, it did.
What's interesting about that is he's talking about like the Russiagate stuff. And I looked at some of if you just go through his, YouTube channel, it's like every There's like tens and maybe even hundreds of videos that are like, ooh, new information on the Hunter Biden tape. We got a tape from a thing, like tons and tons of that stuff. And then it's tons of, ooh, we heard from a guy that another guy said that they found some memory cards of votes and some votes. It's like the exact same thing that they complain about the Russiagate stuff, which, I mean, I don't care about, to be honest, but they're just doing the exact same thing. They're doing just a more prolonged, more excruciatingly boring version of the exact same thing. They're like, oh, these people with their stupid Russia investigation. By the way, we found there was a discrepancy. And, Rudy Giuliani has information from a guy who he met in a parking lot and gave him a briefcase that has some documents that contain alleged possible fraud.
Or maybe using people with law enforcement power to target groups like the NRA. That didn't happen. Oh, of course it did.
And then it's just a lot of this kind of bubble. It's so strange. Like if you're in this bubble, you have all these kind of, loose conspiracy theory stories about something with the NRA and on and on. It's like a whole lore. It's basically like Star Trek or something. It's like Lord of the Rings. There's a whole canon to it or whatever.
And maybe step 4, shut down any political speech by monopolizing the new public square. What's the new public square? Well, of course, social media, Google, Twitter, and Facebook.
Okay, and then number 4 is they're not letting us say whatever we want on social media. So these these are the things ruining the country. So number 1 is I can't go to a restaurant. Number 2 is the election didn't go the way that I wanted it to. Number 3 is something about a conspiracy theory about that somebody spied on somebody else during an election, all this like kind of stuff that, okay, cool. I don't know how, if you show me some proof, I'll believe it. Never seen it. Okay. Never seen it. And then 4 is they don't let us post what we want on social media. This is a downfall. This is the downfall of American society, is that I can't post. I get flagged when I put that on Twitter. And this is, as a conservative, I'm living in a totalitarian state. By the way, conservatives, like shockingly, are like the most popular people on social media. I was reading something. I'll put a link to this too. I mean, you cannot escape Ben Shapiro. I mean, on this channel, I call that guy the Candy Man because, like, you say his name and it's just the quality of your video goes down. Because why am I even talking about this guy? This lame little weirdo. But, it's impossible to escape him. I mean, I have a podcast app on my phone. He's like the top podcast. He's like the most shared person on Facebook. He's got one of the biggest YouTube channels on YouTube. That guy, Steven Crowder, who's just a professional misinformationist and like racist goofball, is like the top political YouTube channel. but we're being censored. Oh, how are you being censored? Because when we don't follow, the TOS stuff of these companies, they put a fact check on our tweets. So it's basically like living in 1984. It's basically 1984, but way worse, and we're way more oppressed and way more aggrieved, and we're way more sad about it. The other thing that's so funny about it is the whining about social media with these guys can, like, by definition, as a rule, not go anywhere. Like, it can't go anywhere. Even this guy said, which I thought was pretty interesting, he's like, we're not going to overturn that 230 law because if we do that, the companies will just have to shut down because it's too much liability. They can't be liable for 500 million tweets per day. Makes no sense. So I got to hand it to him. I got to hand it to him on a couple fronts. Good broadcaster, and he admitted the 230 thing. But so they whine and complain about how they're censored on social media, but they never mention anything about trust busting or making these companies public somehow, because they can't do that. Like they're not allowed to do that. Like the people who finance these shows, if they started talking about, hey, maybe we should make Twitter a worker co-op. Maybe we should make it some kind of democratically run company. And people who use it also would have some kind of public stake in it where they could appeal and it could be protected by the First Amendment, blah, 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 blah. They literally can't say that. It's it's so weird that they would choose this as such a as like their pet project when they know it can't go anywhere, you know? And by the way, like, you know, I do think that there's a case to be made that being deplatformed from these companies is like losing your freedom of speech. I mean, sort of, you know? But the answer is not whining about it, which is all they do. Just whining and complaining. It would be some kind of antitrust legal thing. Whoops. And of course, we can't forget the irony. We can't let go of the irony that they love Trump. They love Trump so much, who's a guy who works, I mean, ostensibly works in the government. They're like, make that private company do what I want for the government guys that I like. These are the people who are, you know, they're all about business. Leave business alone. Keep the government out of our business. Just like Ronnie Reagan said, keep the government out. Keep the government small enough to kick out the door or whatever. And they're like, hey, this guy who works in the government, we want businesses, private companies, to kind of bend to his will. We don't want them to, you know, have their own terms of services and stuff like that. The guy who works in the government, we want him to have total control over that. We want him to be able to say whatever he wants with no fact checking and none of that. But yeah, I imagine it's a lot of people, honestly, like in a state like Kentucky, like some solid red state like Kentucky, watch this show and they're like, yeah, Danny's sticking up for my interest. Even though what would actually help a place like Kentucky would be like some kind of a New Deal situation. Create a bunch of new jobs, invest in some kind of new technology that would last a long time, safe, you know, some kind of safe, clean, green kind of deal, of a new sort. You know, some kind of investment like that would literally save people's lives in that part of the country. And they probably love this dude and they're like, yeah, I don't care about that. I don't care about all that stuff, like, you know, investment in the state to make it not the poorest place in the country anymore. No, I don't care about that. I care about, hey, what does this weird lawyer for Trump have to say about there was some missing a hard drive had some votes on it that I didn't know about. Ooh, please, I got to hear more about this. I got to hear more. This is going to tangibly change my life. Tell me more. Tell me more. What's that? Oh, they're going to build a factory where, you know, I would be doing meaningful work that wouldn't be in a coal mine and I'm not going to get black lung. Instead, I would be helping build some new technology that would, you know, make us less dependent on, you know, horrible forms of fuel and all this stuff. No. That's not very interesting to me. What's interesting to me is I got to hear about those memory cards that have some votes. He's still not going to win, of course, but I got to know about those votes. I got to know about what's up with those votes, son. Give me the rap on those. The one thing that you have to hand it to this guy is that he is a pretty interesting and good broadcaster. And one thing that I like about him is he's you know, a lot of these segments that he does, he's like worked up. He's like, I'm pissed about this, which I think a lot of people just like that energy. They just like that. Oh, enough with this shit, you know, regardless of what it is. You know, a lot of people are going to fact check this stuff, but a lot of people who watch this show or listen to the show are just generally kind of upset, but they don't know why. You know, probably like I described, where you can't find a decent job and things are generally not going well. You're just kind of a low-level anger all the time. And then you hear somebody who's like, this is bullshit, like for anything. He's just like, this is shitty. You know, it's about whatever. It doesn't even need to be relevant to anything. Just hearing somebody go, God damn shit, everything. I'm so mad. I think people kind of like, which is kind of a talk radio thing. I was just talking to somebody about how when I was a kid, I used to listen to this like local Florida AM talk radio that was it was pretty much that. It was just people would call in and the host would just tell them to shut up and zip their stupid mouths and, make fun of them. And it was usually completely politically incorrect and kind of vaguely racist. And people loved it. It was just like it was almost like, when you, I don't know, when you do like hot yoga or something, you just like get out all your impurities. It's just like being really loud and kind of angry. I think, I don't know, people just ritualistically like it or something.
We don't know that. If she did, she did. We'll address it when it happens. I don't mean to belabor that. I'm just really sick of the sellout, weak-kneed, jellyfish spine, pathetic, loser Republican class, which I'll get to in a minute, who are just so eager to throw all of our own people under the bus at a moment's notice while letting the pee-pee tape people off.
So what he's getting so mad and worked up and upset about this, is that some people are saying that this lady, what's her name, Sidney Powell, she's just like an absolute kook lawyer for the Trump people. That people are like, yeah, I think she seems crazy, and he's like, what? No, well, get on board, son. Calling this lady who's clearly a kook crazy. Don't listen to your eyes. Just keep the eyes on the prize. That's like his thing. That's what he's getting all worked up about. I guess he's also getting worked up about the fact that like all these lawsuits are straight up just falling apart. Like they've pretty much all been thrown out at this point. Like there's nothing left. Especially today's what? It's the day after Thanksgiving, and it's all done. It's all done. The election's over. So I don't know. He's mad. I love it. He's mad about something, but it's not at all clear what he's mad about. But he hates Russiagate, yet he's doing the exact same kind of stuff as Russiagate. It's fascinating. But I will say, like, unlike some of these weirdo right-wing YouTubers, like Steven Kraut, like that guy's just strictly unlikable. Like that's a guy who I'd be shocked if he has any friends that he doesn't pay. Like that's a cross the street to avoid guy. What's the other one? Shapiro is I don't even know what that is. I don't even know what's going on there. Like I can't even make that mental leap to figure out what's going on in that guy's brain. But this guy, I'll be honest, I kind of like this guy. I kind of like him. Just if I met him at a, some barbecue where it's like my, aunt married a new guy. That's who this guy seems like. It's like your aunt who's like almost 50 married a new guy would be Dan Bongino, I feel like. And then you meet him and you're like, oh, this guy's kind of energetic. All right, okay. And then he'll start talking about political stuff and you go, oh, here we go. I shouldn't have... How did I bring this up? How did I get it? How did we get here? Let's back up. Let's go back to talking about how he got a new kettlebell or whatever. Let's just keep it there. Let's talk about how he likes watching the Joe Rogan Experience. Let's just keep it away from politics.